Hello everybody, Jade Hamilton here. I've got Ziggy with me today. We're going to do another big chunk of our story, which is Love Aubrey by Suzanne Lafleur. Before we do, we're going to do a couple of tags. The first is Whatever I Want Monday, which is by lovely Dee at the Navy Hatch. If you haven't subscribed to Dee already, do. She is a fabulous lady with lots of fabulous babies, and she's been really supportive of this channel and of the cubs. So if you can go over and give her a little love, please do. We're also doing Teddy Bear Tuesday, which is run by Linda's Romper Room. Because I'm cheating slightly, because of course Ziggy is a teddy bear. He's a limited edition Joker Build-A-Bear, and today he's got on this beautiful sleeveless romper. Now, I don't normally like the Bruce Willis look, as I call it, you know, the romper or the top having, you know, the sleeves there and your arms and everything sticking out, but on Ziggy it seems to work, doesn't it, little man? Yeah. I think this is either Next or Matalan. It's, let's see, is it black or is it navy? I think it's black, and it's got red embroidery, beautiful scarlet embroidery all down the sides and across the front. It's very sort of Gotham City vibes, and he's got his little mock Timberland boots, or what my dad would call desert boots, matched with it. Ziggy's also got his little grey striped bib on and the craziest hair in the whole of Surrey. Haven't you, my little one? Hey. As I say, if you haven't subscribed to either Dee or Linda, please do. I think the more we can lift each other up and give people a bit of extra love, the better things will be, really. And I have also been really welcomed by a lot of lovely people in this community, so I really want to try and return the favour a little bit. Now for our story, which is Love Aubrey by Suzanne Lafleur. I will give a quick content warning just before I start. There is a description of the day of Aubrey's car crash in the chapters we're going to read. It's not graphic, but if you do need to skip it, please do. I wanted to warn people ahead of time, just in case they feel the need to skip the whole video if they're worried about that. And as per all videos where I read, all copyright goes to Suzanne Lafleur and to her publisher, which is Puffin. I own absolutely nothing. Make yourself nice and comfy. Grab yourself a hot drink if you've got one. Grab an extra blanket if you're chilly. And I will get the story up, and I will see you in a mo. Right, we're on chapter 5. For someone who brought me to live with her, Gran really seems to want to keep me out of the house. It's good for you explained. Every morning, Gran handed me another list. Summer's not about having a list of things to do every day, I groaned. I looked at the new list. Feed the pets, hang up laundry on the line to dry, tend the tomatoes, water the flowers, sweep the porch. I frowned, I dressed, had a bowl of wheat flakes and bananas, and checked the list again. Feeding the pets was easy. I dropped a food pellet into Sammy's bowl and wiggled my fingers at him. He wiggled his fins back at me. I whispered, Sammy, you're my bestest fish friend. Sammy, you're my bestest fish friend, I whispered to him. He wiggled back that I was his best people friend, which made sense because I fed him and talked to him, and no one else ever did. Downstairs, I put a scoop of dry food and a spoonful of canned food into a little cat dish and carried it to the porch. Gran told me she calls the cat Martha. Martha didn't spend all her time on the porch, but she did wait there every morning for her food. She rubbed against my legs when she saw me with the food dish. I took the dirty bowls back inside, then cleaned the water bowl, refilled it and brought it back out. Gran had already washed the laundry. I didn't understand why she didn't get a dryer, but she said she never really needed one. I hauled the heavy basket of wet clothes to the clothesline in the yard. I didn't like hanging up our underwear for everyone to see. Not that there were many people around, but still. The girl next door was around. I looked past my underwear to her and gave her an embarrassed half-smile apology. She smiled back and then returned to the skipping rope lesson she was giving her little sister. Her sister must have been about 4. She still had baby curls. I knew a baby lady lived in the house too, because I'd heard one crying. I took the empty laundry basket into the kitchen. Gran was sitting at the table, head in her hands. Hey, Gran, I said. I didn't want her to know I'd caught her like that, upset. Hey. I put the laundry basket in the washing machine, on the washing machine in the pantry, and made myself a glass of raspberry lemonade from the pitcher in the fridge. I sat down at the table with her. Who's the girl who lives in the other house? Gran looked as if she was coming back from far away, but then she seemed excited. Bridget! Oh, have you met Bridget? She's a nice girl. Oh, I was hoping you would meet her. I hadn't met her, just seen her. Yes, that's Bridget. Bridget and Mabel and Danny, I think, is the baby. They moved here during the winter. I finished my lemonade. I looked back outside to finish the list. Number 3 tends to the tomatoes was my least favourite of the jobs Gran liked to give me. I had to pull out any weeds that grew in the rows between the plants, straighten their cages, mix the plant food in the watering can, and water them. The whole thing probably took about an hour. My knees got dirty and my ponytail fell out when I went to fix it. And when I went to fix it, I got dirt in my hair and on my face. Gran said it would be worth it though, when we had great tomatoes to eat at the end of the summer. The plants seemed healthier now. They were green and full, with hard tomatoes the colour of lime juice, budding under the hairy leaves. As I worked, I glanced up every now and then to see if Bridget was still outside. Sometimes I caught her looking at me. Watering the flowers was more fun. I got to hook up the hose and spray all the flowers along the house and throughout the yard. The last job was easy. I got the broom from the kitchen pantry and swept all the dirt off the porch into the bushes and grass beneath. That only took a minute. When all my chores were done, I got another glass of lemonade and flopped onto the porch to rest. When I'd finished my drink, I looked across the yard. Bridget was still there, by herself now, sitting in the tyre swing. I told my legs to stand up, to walk, but they seemed to take a long time to listen. Finally, I managed to walk myself off the porch, past the tomatoes, through the trees and into Bridget's yard. By then she was on her stomach, spinning slowly with her feet on the ground. "Hi," I said. She looked up. "You have a scar on your head," she said. Usually people stare, or they ask, "How did you get that awful scar?" Bridget made it sound normal. "I know," I said. "I have one on my knee." She pushed up her legging capris to show me. She had a big scar, pink and raised across her kneecap. "I got it falling out of a tree over there." I looked, but the ridge right behind, with the woods right behind us, there were hundreds of trees. "I'll show you," she said. "It's a cool old tree." We left her yard for the woods. The tree felt very far away. It was a neat tree, gnarled, crooked, perfect for climbing. Bridget hoisted herself onto a lower branch and said, See, I started off just here and climbed there and then there." She pointed at the higher branches. "And see that one? That's the one I fell from." Bridget dropped back to the ground. "Cool," I said. She looked at my scar again, but didn't ask about it. I guess she was giving me a little room to tell her if I wanted to. When I didn't, she said, "Come on." We walked back to her house. "I just turned 11 last week," she said. "How old are you?" "I'm 11 too," I answered. "I'm Bridget," she said. "I know," I said. "I'm Aubrey." "I know," Bridget said. When we got back to her yard, Mabel was there. "Bridget, you left," she said. "I came back," Bridget said, "but I can't play with you. I'm going to play with Aubrey." Mabel pouted to the point of tears. It was clear she was going to start wailing soon. "Aubrey, can I play with you? Please, please." "Go away, Savannah, you're too little." "Aubrey," Bridget hollered at me, "are you okay?" "Can Mabel play?" I choked out. "What?" "Can Mabel play with us?" I asked again. At first I thought Bridget was going to get mad and say to forget the whole thing, that she didn't want to play with either of us. But instead she said, "Okay." She took one of Mabel's small hands and then reached for one of mine, squeezed it and repeated, "Okay." "Dear Jilly, I said I would write to tell you some more. You always liked animals. You remember when you had the pet giraffe? So I'll start with them. The cat's name is Martha. I'm in charge of taking care of her now. I feed her every day. Sammy is still good. Sometimes he swims. Sometimes he just floats with his fins resting and waving a tiny, tiny bit. He seems to be okay here after the move." The girl next door is Bridget. We're the same age. How old are you now? I have trouble keeping track, but you must still be 7. Gram is still looking for Mum. I don't know why I don't care where she went. I guess Gram is more worried because she's Mum's mum, and she has to be, but maybe that can't be it because my mum doesn't seem to be worried about me. That's fine though. I don't want to see her. Love, Aubrey. Chapter 6. In the morning I took the envelope for Jilly and snuck outside with it before Gran could see me. There didn't seem to be anyone at Bridget's either. I remembered the way to Bridget's scar tree on my own. When I got there, I stood at the base of the trunk, looking up. I'd never been that great at tree climbing. I put Jilly's letter in my teeth. I looked for the lowest branch and started my climb there. It took me a long time to get anywhere, because on each branch I stood very still for a minute and wondered how scared I was to go higher. Sweat started running down my face and my hands got slippery, but I kept climbing. Finally, I'd gone as high as I could go, so I carefully sat down. I took Jilly's letter out of my mouth and set it on the branch against the trunk of the tree. That seemed to be the right thing to do with it. Then I climbed back down. Vermont wasn't as hot and sticky as Virginia, but it could still be really hot. When it was, Gram shortened my list. One morning she handed it to me with a bowl of watermelon chunks and said it was okay to just sit for a while first, if I wanted to. I should have been used to it, but for some reason I felt awful. Being hot had never done that to me before. Sitting on the porch swing, I closed my eyes. Dad used to say something about this kind of weather. The heat is oppressive, Aubrey. It's oppressively hot. What do you mean? I mean, I don't feel like doing a thing. Not one thing. I might even get too lazy to breathe if my body didn't take care of that for me. Good morning. I opened my eyes to see Bridget on the porch. Hi, I said. Watermelon? Bridget took a chunk and bit into it. No seeds? Nope. Too bad though. We could have had a spitting competition. What chores do you have to do today? She asked. I just have to feed Martha and then water all the plants, especially the tomatoes. I'll do Martha, Bridget said, sitting on the porch wailing. I used to take care of her all the time. What do you mean? When your gran was away in the spring, she was away for about a month, and I fed Martha. Wasn't she with you? Gran had been with us in the spring. I remembered her being there after the funeral, when everyone else went back home. But she'd only been with us a few days, hadn't she? Was that a month? Yeah, don't you remember? I shook my head. Not really. Bridget shrugged and went inside to get Martha's food. I stayed where I was, clinging to the cold metal watermelon bowl. Bridget returned with the cat bowls and set them on the porch. Martha, annoyed with me for sitting without feeding her furs, slunk up on the porch and started her breakfast. Bridget climbed over the porch railing. Where are you going? I asked. She didn't answer, disappearing for a minute. I heard her giggle. Then I was wet with freezing cold water. I jumped off the swing, dropping the watermelon bowl. Feel better? She asked, waving the hose at me. Let's do the watering, it'll be fun. Soon the ground all around the plants turned to mud, and the grass squished beneath our bare feet. We shrieked and ran, getting completely soaked. After a while, Gram stuck her head out of the kitchen window to yell at us to stop wasting our water and ruining our lawn. We shut the hose off and sat down in the dry grass in Bridget's yard. The day was hotter, we noticed, now that we didn't have the hose on. Mabel saw us through the window and came outside. Can I play? She asked. What do you want to play? Bridget asked. House? Mabel had obviously planned on us saying yes, because her arms were loaded with 3 dolls. Bo, she said, handing one to Bridget. She held the second one to her chest. Janie, she said. The 3rd doll she handed to me. Brussels sprout. Bridget and I laughed, but Mabel continued seriously. You have to find them something to eat. We scavenged for leaves, acorns and grass we could pretend were food. My stomach started to hurt again as we played. Mabel fixed oatmeal for her baby, and Bridget announced that she was making pizza. She got a handful of mud sauce from my yard, slathered it on a frisbee, and sprinkled grass cheese on it. What are you cooking, Aubrey? What are you cooking, Aubrey? Maybe asked. I don't know yet, I said, looking at the maple leaves piled in my lap. Daddy, we made you a restaurant. Oh boy, again? A table is set. I'll play one. I dragged Dad by the hand to sit, and Sylvana hands him a menu with red marker scribbles on it. I'd like a nice steak. We don't have that at this restaurant, sir, I say, the polite waitress. Okay, he scans the menu again. Swordfish? Savannah, the chef, looks at me, worried, then decides to take care of things herself. She whispered in Dad's ear loudly. Our play food doesn't come with that stuff. Dad turns to me. What would you recommend? Savannah claps her hand again and whispers something else. I'll have a hamburger, Dad says. One hamburger, I say, coming right up. Savannah scampers behind the couch where our play kitchen is set up. I need to go, I say. What? Bridget asked. She and Mabel looked up and they're thinking, yeah, I don't feel good. Bridget looked a little worried for a minute, then seemed to forget it. See you, she said, as I walked back to Graham's. She and Mabel, absorbed in the game again, laughed together. Inside, I went upstairs to change my clothes. I was going to get into bed, but it was so hot up there. Downstairs was much cooler because the porch kept the sun from getting in the windows, so I went down to the living room. I hadn't spent much time there because it was where Savannah and I used to stay when we came to visit Graham, but I sat on the couch and turned on the TV. There was nothing on but those daytime courtroom shows, but I left it on, closed my eyes, and put my head in the armrest. Savannah lies beside me on the couch. Aubrey, you're in my space! Aubrey! Shut up, Savannah, you're the one in the way. She jabs me in the ribs and I tickle her back. Soon our low giggles turn to shrieks and laughter. Savannah sees Mum come into the living room. Mama, Savannah cries, Aubrey's tickling me. She started it by being all squirmy, I say. Mum bends over us both, reaching her arms to pin us down on either side. She kisses each of our cheeks. Her long dark hair tickles me as the end of the ponytail sweeps past my face. Did you have a fun day here with Gran? Did you have a fun day here with Gran, girls? She asks. Let's stay forever, Savannah says. Forever? Asks Mum sitting down. That's a long time to be at Gran's house. We have our own house. Savannah may want to stay, but thinking of staying forever makes my stomach feel funny. I love Gran, I do, but I would miss my room and my school friends. Mum must see my feelings on my face. She bends close to my ear, whispers, We'll get you home soon, girl. But I can stay forever, right? Savannah asks. Gran comes into the living room. What's all this talk about forever? What's that, Aubrey? What are you talking about? Sweat was beaded all over my face. Gran, what? I asked. Gran took the remote control from me and clicked off the TV. You were mumbling about something. Was the show upsetting you? No, I said, thinking. I shook my head. No. I sat at Graham's table and watched Bridget's family through the kitchen window. They were having a picnic dinner. They'd stretched out 2 blankets, one for food and one, it seemed, for baby Danny to roll around on. That seemed to be his big discovery in life, rolling himself over. I couldn't tell what they ate, but it was some kind of meat from the barbecue that I'd watched Bridget's dad cook, and something leafy green, and bread rolls, and maybe something like a potato or macaroni salad. Bridget's mum served it in scoops on their plates. The air was rapidly cooling. Ah, isn't that refreshing? Brown asked, coming into the kitchen. Let's get a pizza. Does that sound good? I'm not hungry, I said. Well, I want a pizza. You might change your mind when you smell it. I'll go pick one up. She called the pizza place, got her keys, and headed out to the car. I saw Bridget's family wave at Gran. They didn't see me. After Gran drove away and no one was there to watch, I left my seat at the table and went to stand at the window so that I could see better, my face pressing against the glass. The next day was cooler, thank goodness. Gran gave me a regular list of chores to do, which meant I had to attack the weeds around the tomatoes again. Bridget showed up to help me, and it went much faster than usual. Some of the tomatoes were orange now. When we finished, we washed our hands in the hose water and went to play in Bridget's yard. After a few hours, her mother called, Girls, come in for lunch. Me too, I asked Bridget. Guess so, Bridget said. She said, girls, and we're the only ones out here. I hesitated. What's the matter? Bridget asked. Come on. I followed her inside. The back door led to a kitchen that had a table with baby Danny in a high chair and Mabel in a booster seat, swinging her legs, and a nice mum in soft clothes with soft hair who looked just like a mum should, the way my mum used to. I squirmed my toes in my tennis shoes. Mum, this is Aubrey, Bridget said. She went to the counter, picked up a peanut butter and jelly and marshmallow sandwich and bit into it, getting the sticky filling round the edges of her mouth. Hello, Aubrey, Bridget's mother said. Then she did something I wasn't expecting. She knelt in front of me and slowly gathered me into a hug. Your grandmother told me about you. I'm very glad you're here. I stood stiffly. I met Bridget's eyes. She was using her thumb to smudge away the stickies on her cheeks. She looked steadily back at me without seeming to be afraid to. She'd known the whole time. I realised then. She knew everything. I relaxed in Bridget's mother's arms, resting my head on her shoulder as she rocked me. When I finally pulled away, there was wetness on her shirt, drops I didn't need to carry around anymore. One side of the table had a bench seat along the window. I sat there next to Bridget, our hips and legs touching. We were so close. We worked our way through the pile of sandwiches until I was stuffed. Then Bridget asked, "Want to see my room?" We washed our hands in the bathroom off the kitchen and made our way upstairs. Her room was above the kitchen and full of slanty ceilings and corners. There was a single bed in the biggest open space and a toddler-sized bed in one corner. Mabel sleeps there. They're getting her a big girl bed soon. She's been afraid of getting it, Bridget said. She showed me everything important, most of which was in her dresser: a soccer trophy, a picture of her softball team from earlier in the summer, a collection of seashells from their family's trip to Marine the year before. You never said anything about me, I said. Mum told me not to, she said, opening her jewellery box. See, this was from my dad when Mabel was born. She held up a heart on a chain. That's pretty, I said. Here, she said, opening the top drawer of her dresser. She took out a bottle of pink nail polish, a pale pink nail polish. Want me to paint your toes? Sure, I said. I guess it didn't bother her that my feet were really dirty from our work in the garden that morning. We sat down on her rug. She'd set my feet on a magazine. I rested my arms on my knees and put my head on top of them. I didn't tell Bridget, but while she painted my toes, I was thinking of Savannah. She used to like her toes painted magenta with silver sparkles on top. Dear Jilly, I've been spending more time with Bridget and her family. After everything happened, a lot of kids back at school started talking about me to each other about me like they were close to me, even if we weren't friends before. But then if I was around, they acted like I had some kind of disease and no one wanted to be with me. Bridget's not like that at all. She doesn't ask me weird questions and she's not afraid to touch me. She makes me feel like she's still friends with me because she wants to be, and it has nothing to do with what happened. I never thought I'd say this, but I kind of miss you. Love, Aubrey. Chapter 7. I thought we'd go visit school today, Ram said. School? School? I asked. I'd forgotten about school. What did that have to do with me? Graham handed me the day's list. Shower, dress in semi-nice clothes, no stains or rips, visit school. Why do I have to go there? I asked. All children go to school, Gram said, or at least they should. But it's summer. School starts next week. It what? Gran, I have a school. Aubrey. Gran sat down on the bed next to me and patted the blanket over my hips. I took care of everything. You're all set to start school up here. It might even be good for you. You'd be with a new set of kids. I didn't say anything. All right then. Gran patted me more cheerfully. Go shower. You have an appointment. I scrubbed in the shower and shampooed, and then I rummaged through my clothes for a long time before picking out a light blue skirt and a white blouse. I didn't really know how fancy she wanted me to dress, but there was something nice about putting on something other than the ripped jean shorts I'd been wearing all summer. Graham talked about the school for the whole drive, but I didn't really listen. I watched the town change from what seemed like farms around Graham's to neighbourhoodly clumps of houses. Finally, Graham picked the car in the lot next to the sports field. Parked the car, in the lot next to the sports field and a large brick building. Here we are, she said. We walked inside. The building had that weird summer feeling where there are no kids, just a few teachers in regular clothes walking around. It was easy to find the main office. Graham told the secretary we were here to see Mr. Pudlow, the principal. She told us to wait a minute and called him. We sat down. Mr. Pudlow came out of his office. Even though it was summer, he was wearing a shirt and tie. He took Graham's hand, then reached for mine. I watched his eyes take in my scar, then looked carefully over the rest of me. I already didn't like him. Normally, I like to meet with our new students or one-on-one, just to get a sense of who they are. So if it's all right, I'll talk to Aubrey on her own for just a few minutes, and then we can go over any questions you may have, he said to Gran. Gran nodded and sat back down. Mr. Pudlow brought me into his office. He sat behind his desk and gestured towards a chair in front of it. I sat. Hello, Aubrey, and welcome. I hear you've come to live with your grandmother. She called down and had your records sent from your old school, so I have them right here. Mr. Pudlow waved a folder at me. It looks like you excelled in maths, science, and reading especially. Are those subjects you like? I guess so, I answered. He was making me more and more uncomfortable. Perhaps my folder didn't include my latest report card. So tell me, Aubrey, outside of academics, what are your interests? Do you like to play a sport, play an instrument, write poetry? Hobbies. Now that seemed long ago. I used to learn everything I could about the Middle Ages. I used to play soccer. I used to like to swim in the summer. Once upon a time I was interested in fishing and made Dad take me. I still like reading, but I didn't think that was what he meant. I don't know, I said. I see. He obviously thought I was an idiot. The phone rang. Excuse me a moment, Mr. Pudlow said, and answered it. Yes, thank you. I've been waiting for this call. He glanced at me. Actually, transfer this to Helen's room. I'll take it there. He hung up. Excuse me for another minute. I must take this call. I'll be right back. He left the office. At first, I stared around at his books and filing cabinets and posters, but then I saw my file sitting on his desk. I'd always wondered what it said about us in those permanent records. I looked behind me out of the open door, but there wasn't anyone around. I got up from my chair and walked round to his side of the desk and opened the folder. Paper clipped to the first sheet. My fifth grade grades. Paper clipped to the first sheet. My fifth grade grades with yellow needle notepaper showing a school of black ink with a date on it for the week before. It looked like a list. Aubrey Priestley comes to us from Virginia, survivor of car crash that killed her father and sister in April, neglected and abandoned by her mother, now residing with grandmother. Sessions with school counsellor strongly recommended. I would have thought those notes were about someone else, except that they had my name on them. Survivor. I never really thought of myself as one of those. Thought of myself like that. But a neglected, abandoned child? I was definitely not one of those. Those stories were about other kids, not about me. I'd heard about those kids on TV and in books. My life was not supposed to be like that. Were they the ones who decided I needed counselling? Or had Gran told them I needed it? There was nothing wrong with me. I was dizzy. I was really dizzy. I closed the folder and walked back round the desk and sat down. I covered my face with my hands because suddenly Mr. Pudlow's office seemed too bright. Neglected, abandoned, neglected, abandoned. Soon Mr. Pudlow returned. Sorry about that, Aubrey. Now, I just made it to the trash can before I got sick. Our meeting was over. I am so going to school. I'm not. You're still too little. And too, I'm going to third grade like you. See, I have a backpack with a lunch and a notebook in it. Backpack, says Savannah, and you are not. Dad scoops Savannah up. Aubrey, she's going to ride along with you and Mum to school and then come home. Just make it fun for her, okay? Make her feel included. Fine, I say, but school isn't a game. I check my pencil case. It has 3 sharpened pencils in it. I have 3 new notebooks, 1 clean eraser, a full lunchbox, and several folders. I'm all ready. Mum put Savannah in her car seat. Why does she have to ruin everything by always pretending? Why does she have to ruin my morning with Mum by coming along? Where were you all day? Bridget stood over me. It was warm out, but I huddled in a sleeping bag under a tree in the yard. Visiting school, I said, and I didn't feel good when I got home. I didn't want to play. Oh. She sat down. Are you better now? A little, I said. I'm still dizzy feeling. Oh, I hate that, Bridget said. Once I had a fever for 5 days, and then even after I didn't have a temperature, I was still dizzy for 2 more days. Dad said I wasn't used to walking around, but you can play now, right? I don't want to, I said. Bridget frowned, but sat down next to me anyway. She talked with me for a while, telling me about the movie she'd watched that morning. I felt a little better listening to her. After a while I got up and asked her to wait there. I found Gram in the kitchen. "Can Bridget stay for dinner?" I asked. Gram nodded. I went back outside and invited Bridget. She went home and asked her mum if she could stay, and it was fine. Gram came outside and grilled some chicken. She called us into a table set with 3 places and barbecued chicken, green beans, mashed squash and rolls. Gram and Bridget made polite conversation. I didn't listen to it. I interrupted. "Did you hear from Mum today?" I asked Gram. It made me feel braver having Bridget there, because maybe we wouldn't have this conversation, just me and Gram, because Bridget made me feel better. I don't know why, really. Also, I was mad at Gram for the note I'd read, for telling people those things about me. Gram looked at me, surprised. She lowered her eyes and poked her food. She hesitated and then sighed. "Not today." Gram asked Bridget another question, which Bridget answered, though she seemed less comfortable after my interruption. I stopped listening again. I didn't eat any more. When dinner was over, I scraped my plate into the garbage and walked Bridget home. Back in my bedroom, I looked at my clean clothes pile on the top of my dresser and the open travel bags I've been pulling things out of, which was still under the bed. I hauled the bags out and dumped them on the floor, sifting through my things roughly, throwing them around. I didn't know where to put anything. I didn't want to do it. "Dear Jilly, I guess I'm not going back any time soon. Today, Gran took me to a new school here. I know you always wanted to go to school, and Savannah told me you never got to, but maybe she was lying. Maybe you did go to school with her sometimes. I'm not telling Gran this, but while I was waiting for the principal, I read my file. I was scared about the things I read there. It sounded like they happened to someone else, or like someone had wrote up a nightmare and picked my file to stick it in. Ever since I've read it, I felt really sick. I can't stop thinking about it, and Dad and Savannah, and I guess Mum too. I've been pretending for a long while that everything's okay, when really, every day is harder. I guess that's all I want to say for now. I'm going to be quick and send this letter before I tear it up. Love, Aubrey. I heard the rain before I opened my eyes. Whoa, Nelly, look at this downpour. I hear the expression from Dad enough that I don't wonder who Nelly is. Nelly isn't anybody, it's just something to say. Maybe it'll let up. We've only got another hour and a half till we get home, Mum says. I moaned and pulled the covers over my head. Gram couldn't tell me I needed to get up. The plants wouldn't need water. Gram could feed Martha herself. I was staying put. I began to fall back asleep. Sorry, we're on chapter 8. "Aubrey," Gram called again. I ignored her and fell asleep again. Eventually, my door opened. I heard steps, but they weren't Gram's steady ones. They were lighter, faster. The bed bounced, and someone was sitting on my butt. The intruder pulled the covers off me. "Bridget, get off! Get off! Get up!" she replied without seeming to feel bad that I'd yelled at her. "Come and play!" "I don't play on rainy days," I said. I grabbed my covers and rolled over, knocking her off me, and hid my head. "Why not?" "Rainy days are bad," I answered. "Bad, bad, bad." "I don't think so," Bridget says. "Come on." There was a hint of pleading in her voice. Gram says she's coming in here in a minute to wake you up anyway. I'm staying right here, I said. Me too, then, Bridget replied. She lifted the covers again, hopped in, and tugged them over both of us. I looked at her under the soft pink dome, protecting us from the rainy day. You're dirty, I said. You probably walked here through the mud and bare feet, and now Gram's going to have to wash the sheets. Bridget lifted her foot to our faces. Ooh, see? I threw off the covers to get away from the dirty feet. We were both giggling when Gram came in. I stopped laughing. Good morning, girls, she said, sitting on the bed. And looking at it over the lumpy covers. Are you interested in breakfast in bed? No, I said. Bridget nodded. Well, I'll fix some then. In 5 minutes, Gram brought up 2 trays. Each had a steaming bowl of oatmeal with a melting lump of brown sugar on top and a plate of sliced bananas and strawberries. Ooh, yum! That sounds great. I love porridge, which is what we call oatmeal in the UK. I love ready bread in particular, which is a kind of, it's not quite instant oatmeal, but it's a sort of quick porridge that you can make in the microwave. And I like that with fruit chopped up in it. I like mango and dried apricots and things on my porridge. Yum. She sat on the far end of the bed while we ate. She looked around my room. It was still a big mess from the night before. What happened in here? She asked. I shrugged. Didn't I ask you to unpack a long time ago? No, I lied. Didn't I ask you to unpack a long time ago? She repeated. Maybe, I said. Look under your plate, she said. I slid the fruit plate to the side. Finish unpacking. Fine, I said. I'm done eating. I stretched forward to hand the tray of half-eaten oatmeal back to her. I'll leave the fruit for you in case you get hungry, Gram said, setting it on the night table. Bridget handed Gram her empty tray. Thanks for breakfast. You're welcome, Gram said, and left the room. I pulled the covers back over my head. Bridget did the same so she could see me. Aren't we going to clean your room? She asked. Maybe later, I said. I almost fell back asleep while Bridget tried to lay still, fidgeted, and finally gave up and pushed off the covers. She got out of bed and started rummaging through my stuff. What are you doing? I asked, my eyes shut. Folding clothes, Bridget said. I peered and saw that it was true. She was making a sloppy stack of clothes out of the ones strewn on the floor. I watched her. She took the pile over to the dresser and opened the top drawer. Oh, hang on, I've lost my place. Let me go back one. As I've said previously, though, if there are some heavy topics in this one, so if you do need to skip ahead at any point, please do. She took the pile over to the dresser and opened the top drawer. "Did you know there's stuff in here?" she asked. I said. "Look, pictures. Leave them alone, okay?" Bridget ignored me. She dropped the clothes onto the bed and came over with a handful of pictures. "Are these Graham's kids?" "Yeah," I said. "Which one's your mum?" The littlest girl," I said. I pointed to her in one of the pictures, one of 3 girls holding dancing poses. Bridget sat down. "You miss her?" I shrugged. Bridget shuffled through the pictures. This set isn't that old. Who's this?" She held out one of the photos. 2 small girls blew bubbles in a driveway. They wore white Easter outfits stained with bright red-orange smudges on the knees of the tights and along the sides of the shoes. "That's me," I said. "And your sister?" "Yes," I said. "What's all that red stuff?" "Mud. Why is it that weird colour? That's what colour it is. I've never seen it like that before." "Oh. Well, that's what it is in Virginia. It's not like that here. Here all the dirt washes out. That red stuff never comes out." Bridget looked carefully at the stains in the picture. "You have an accent, you know," she said. "So do you." "No, I don't." "Yes, you do. You sound like a Yankee." "What?" Bridget exclaimed, but she was laughing. "Oh, what?" "Someone from up north. Dad used to call Mum that all the time. 'Just like a Yankee,' he'd say." She flipped through the next photos. Dad lifts 2-year-old Savannah into the air on that same Easter. Mum sets the table for the fancy dinner. Her favourite, ham and pineapple. I lie on my back, hands reaching into the Easter basket on my stomach. "Your dad wasn't from here then?" "No," I answered as Bridget scooched a little closer to me. "He grew up in Georgia. He and Mum met down there when Mum was on a trip. They wrote letters when she went back home, and then she moved there, and they got married." We were quiet as Bridget flicked through the next clump of pictures. More of us. I shut my eyes and rested my head against her middle. "Why are you called Aubrey?" "What do you mean? My parents picked it." "No, I mean, why did they pick it? I used to think you were Audrey when Mum would talk about you, and then that you got the D backwards. It's a family name on Dad's side. His mum's family. So your first name is a last name." "It was, but there were no more boys to pass it on to." "That's weird." "No, a lot of people do it," I said. "Here's you and your mum," Bridget said. She held out a picture. I'm about 7 in a party dress, sitting in Mum's lap, leaning into her. She rests her chin on my shoulder, her cheek pressed against mine. Neither of us looks at the camera. It's like there's no one else watching us and we're all alone together. "You miss her," Bridget said again. This time she wasn't asking. She looked carefully at my face. "No," I said. Bridget was quiet again. I listened to the rain, which was a bad idea because my stomach started feeling funny and I felt like there was oatmeal stuck in my throat. I pulled a pillow to my chest and held it tight. Bridget put the photos down and put her hands in my hair and on my back. "It's okay." I closed my eyes and remembered that other rainy day when words didn't help us. "Daddy, why didn't you just say it a bit louder? Why? Why didn't you make us all stop?" Bridget didn't say anything as I started to cry. She just listened and kept petting me. "I'm glad you're here," Bridget said. I liked Bridget, but I couldn't agree. I should have been down in my own house in Virginia with my own family. Then I thought I heard Bridget thinking. Bridget was thinking, "Tell me. It's okay. Just tell me." And I thought right back to her, "No, Bridget, I can't." It took 3 hours, but eventually we got all my things in a place. We emptied the dresser and filled it with my clothes. I hung up a few of my nicer outfits on hangers in the closet. Graham said we could carry an old table down from the attic to use as a desk, so I set up my art supplies on it. Since there wasn't a bookshelf, I made a row of books on the desk and the dresser. Bridget was surprised that I had games because I'd never invited her to play any, so we played them on the rug before putting each one in the closet. When we were done, it had stopped raining. "We can go outside now," Bridget said. I looked around the bedroom, which seemed to say, "You live here now." I was fine with the idea of leaving it. When we got downstairs, I saw that Graham had made us kids' sandwiches. Plain American cheese on fluffy white bread that no grown-up would eat, and left a bowl of green grapes on the counter. Bridget and I ate standing up, then headed outside. As we started across the yard to Bridget's, we saw Mabel and her dad playing. He picked her up and was spinning her. She was screaming with happiness. "What's your dad doing home?" I asked. "He's got the day off," Bridget said. I stopped walking and shut my eyes. It wasn't Mabel I heard at all. Outside, maybe it was Mabel's voice, but inside I could hear Savannah. "Bridget," I said, keeping my eyes closed, "I need to go. I need to go," she said. "You need to go." She finished the words, but they sounded heavy, like it bothered her to say them. "You're such a poop sometimes." "What did you call me?" But I'd heard what she said. "I am not a poop. You're so mopey all the time. You'll seem fine, and then I never know if we're gonna keep playing or if you're gonna run back to bed." Mabel was still laughing in the yard. I didn't know if it was her making me think of Savannah or Bridget being mean to me that was making me feel so sick and angry. Shut up! You have no idea what it's like. How would I? Bridget yelled back. You never tell me anything about what it's like. That's not true, I said. Hadn't Bridget and I just spent ages talking? It took me a few seconds to realise that she was right. That the whole time we talked about dirt colours and accents and names. I'd held back everything else. I have to go, I said. I ran back into Graham's house and shut the door. I couldn't hear Mabel anymore, but I could still hear Savannah. I couldn't shut her out. I went upstairs to my new desk and took out paper. I was going to write another letter, but I put Jilly's name on it, and that was all I could do. Bridget was right. I had nothing to say to anyone. I climbed back into bed. Chapter 9. I'm not sure why Graham let me, but I slept straight through the morning. I woke up grumpy. Straight through to the morning. I woke up grumpy. Downstairs, Graham put a bowl of bran flakes on the table with a full glass of milk and a spoon next to it. I splashed the milk into the bowl and took 2 bites, then stirred the cereal until it turned to mush. I dumped it down the sink. I didn't bother to rinse it down. Graham had left me a chore list on the counter. I ignored it. Then I snatched it and crumpled it up. Bridget was already outside. Mabel was out there too, drawing on the slate stepping stones and the grass with chalk. Neither of them saw me walked up. Hello, hi, I said. Can I play? Bridget shrugged. What's up? I asked. We had French toast for breakfast, Bridget said. With berries, Mabel exclaimed. I pictured the whole thing. Bridget's mum with a spatula, flipping the bread in the frying pan. Bridget's dad leaning to kiss her cheek as he offered his plate. Danny in his high chair, picking up bite-sized soggy bits and smashing them into his face. Mabel with syrup on the front of her pyjamas. Bridget asking for an extra piece. Want to go play in the woods? Bridget asked. Sure, I said. We have to take Mabel. Bridget said, Mum's giving Danny his bath, so I'm watching her. Sure, I said. Danny probably had syrup in his hair. Mabel skipped over and put her hand in mine. Sorry, I keep missing things. There we go. Where are we? My heart started pounding as she swung on my arm. I swung my arm higher, but my arm was stiff. There were words forming in the back of my mind. I shoved them aside. My stomach squirmed. If you need to skip this part, anybody, just please, anything upsetting in these next couple of bits, please do skip it if you need. I shoved them aside. My stomach squirmed. The words pressed against my thoughts again, and I closed my eyes. Mabel. Mabel was pulling me along towards the woods. Bridgie, what game are we going to play? Aubrey, what do you think? Bridget asked. We could play Runaways. Runaways didn't sound like a game to me. It sounded like a stomachache, but I said, fine, let's be in one family. All sisters, Mabel said. I'm Sheila Beela. I'll be Crystal, said Bridget. Aubrey? My. I'll be. Megan, Mabel said. Megan, that's fine, I said. Mabel dropped my hand. Run, sisters, run. She sprinted through the trees. Bridget took off behind her. I hurried to catch up, feeling out of breath already. My sister. Hurry, he'll find us, Mabel screamed. We'd played this game before. Mabel had never explained who he was, this chaser. It was just part of a game. You can't run away without something to run away from. Bridget, I panted. Wait. The words came out softly, like when I was small and had a fever and called Dad to bring me water. I would call and call, but he wouldn't come, because really I wasn't calling that loud, or maybe not even out loud at all. I had other words. Pressing. My sister is. My sister is. I stopped running. Breathe, Aubrey. Breathe. It was harder to see. There were patches in my vision, yellow and black. I squinted. It was getting worse. My sister is dead. My sister is dead. My Savannah. My only one. The words, they were all there, and they were all true. My sister is dead. My dad is dead. My mum left me. My whole family was gone. I couldn't breathe. I grabbed a tree for balance and opened my mouth to be sick, but my body wouldn't throw up. No other things poured out of my mouth. Wails, streams of spit landing on my shoes. Aubrey? A voice sounded from very far away. Hurt. Help. This was not real. Aubrey? Then the voice said, Mabel, go get Gran. Hurry. Run. The wailing turned to screaming. Why couldn't I find them? My body bent, stooping to reach the ground. I clawed the dirt, feeling it. Come back! I hollered, come back! Aubrey, Aubrey. The voice, Aubrey, Aubrey, the voice said. We'd put them in the ground. Dad and Savannah. I just had to get past the surface, this old dirt, and put my family back together again. I couldn't find them. Help me! I'm trying, the voice said. Hands reached to mine in the dirt, but they didn't dig. The hands took my hands and lifted them from the ground empty. I started screaming again. The hands and their arms reached around my middle and pressed, holding me together. The pillow was soft underneath, but the pillowcase was stiff and salty and smudged with dirt. Why would a pillowcase be so dirty? I wasn't the only one in the bed. I rolled over, saw Gram's sleeping face. When she felt me move, her eyes opened. We looked at each other, really looking at each other's faces. Then Gram said, "Do you remember your grandpa?" I thought. A tall man, a deep laugh, me small, lifted high in the air, a raspberry blown on my stomach. Raspberries, real ones, the fruit, in a bucket on the porch swing. I'm in a lap, eating the berries, rubbing my sticky hands clean on a white shirt, my grandpa's shirt. He didn't have a face in the memories, but it was him. He loved me. I loved him. I do, I said. Gram thought again and spoke slowly. When your grandfather died, it hurt so much. I remember feeling like I was broken. I thought that if I was broken, there was no point in getting up in the morning. It was so hard to get out of bed, to make breakfast, take care of the house. And I thought if I did those things, why would they matter? But then I realized I had other things. Like what? I had other people who mattered to me and to whom I mattered. None of them could ever be your grandfather, of course. But in the end, I did get out of bed again. For you. Me? Yes. Not just you, duckling, but my other ducklings, my other children and grandchildren. I thought of how you didn't have to lose both him and me at once. So I got out of my bed, I cleaned my house, I bought a Christmas tree and presents, I started baking, and come Christmas time you were all here again. My house was not empty anymore, and my life was not empty. My life was not over. Gram's eyes studied me, waited for me. I blinked back at her. Our faces were so close, lying in bed like this. I miss them, I whispered. I know, she said. So do I, Aubrey. I forgot that she missed them too, that they were hers too. After the accident, Gram continued, I was hurting again. This time I thought my heart is broken, but I have to be strong for Aubrey and my Lizzie. It was you again that pulled me from my bed in the morning, even after I left you and your mother at your own house to put your lives back together. I shouldn't have done that so soon, I see that now. Now I miss Savannah and I worry about Missy so much. And I think I can't move because of the hurt. But I remember that my Aubrey is right here in my house and we need each other. She kissed my forehead and climbed out of the bed. Sleep well tonight, she said, and tomorrow Get out of that bed. Gran left. I turned to the other side, towards the night table, and watched Sammy swim slow circles in his bowl. There was no list for me in the morning. I woke up and lay there for a while, listening to birds in the trees outside my window. A light breeze slipped through the screen. The air was fresh. The sheets felt smooth and cool as I pushed them away. I got out of the bed, and the thick summer skin of my feet brushed the dry cracks in the floorboards. I kissed at Sally and gave him his food pellet. The pellet made a small plop as it hit the water, and the water rustled as Sammy rushed to it. "Morning, Gran," I said when I got to the kitchen. "Morning," she said with a smile in her voice. "You want some scrambled eggs and bacon?" "I'll do it," I said, and I did. I put the bread in the toaster. I mixed the eggs and poured them into a buttered pan on the stove. I set bacon in a smaller pan. I made a mess. Gran set a bowl of raspberries on the table for me. Had she known I was thinking about them yesterday? Did they make her think of Grandpa too? I slopped my food on a plate, over-salted the eggs. To be fair, you do have to have scrambled eggs, or any kind of eggs really, with quite a bit of salt. I find it cuts through the yolk. But anyway, over-salted the eggs and buttered the toast. It was the best breakfast I'd had in a long time. I made more toast, a whole pile, and stacked my dishes in the sink. I headed to the door. Graham looked up from the laundry she was folding. There's something I have to do," I said. Bridget was outside, making a house for little dolls out of sticks. "Hi," I said. "I want to tell you what happened," I said, careful not to drop any toast when my hand shook. "Yesterday?" she asked. "No. What happened?" "To my family." Bridget looked up then. "Okay." She stood up and brushed the dirt off her hands. I handed her toast as we walked towards the woods. When we came to Bridget's star tree, we sat down. Toast was maybe a bad choice. It was hard to choke down without a drink. I began shredding the top piece. We were quiet. For several minutes. Bridget spoke first. "I still come out here and climb this tree, you know. I've been higher even than when I fell." I took a deep breath, and another. I didn't tell her that I'd climbed her tree too. "We had a wreck," I said. "A wreck?" "An accident. A car accident." I paused. It had been hard enough to say just that out loud, without even telling the story, but I had to tell. Now. "We never really went on vacation," I started. "I mean, except here, to see Gran. We never went and stayed in a hotel or anything. But Dad took a couple of days off in April, and he and Mum thought it would be fun just to go somewhere. So we drove about 3 hours to a hotel. It was fun. We stayed 3 days and ate all the breakfast we wanted and played in the pool and went out to restaurants and watched cable in the room. Then on Sunday we started back. It was raining only a little when we left, so we got on the interstate. There were a lot of trucks and it was hilly, and soon the rain was pouring down. You couldn't really see anything. I was sitting behind Mum. She was driving. The rain sounded good on the car and road, and it made me sleepy. I was tired from the trip, so I put my head against the window and fell asleep. Savannah, I remember, had a colouring book out and headphones on last I looked, so I was sleeping when it happened. They told me later at the hospital that a truck went out of control. It hit us and crunched our car against the metal divider in the middle of the road. Now, in the UK, sorry to interrupt, but in the UK, that particular piece of metal, I think they're referring to what we call the hard shoulder, which is the bit right at the end of the road, which if you break down, you sort of push, you park your car against it. And what the Americans refer to as the interstate, we call the motorway. So Aubrey and her family were driving down the motorway when this happened. And crunched our car against the metal divider in the middle of the road. We flipped over. I woke up for only a second because my head hit the window. Bridget interrupted me. Is that where you're... I reached up and touched my scar. No, that happened on the other side from when something broken inside the car. Bridget went back to just listening. She was sitting with her knee pulled up in front of her, her head resting on it. She looked straight at me as I talked. When I was awake, just for that moment, I heard screaming. I heard all over, but I couldn't see anything. I could just feel that everything was wet from the rain and from my cut. There was blood in my eyes, and I could smell that I'd thrown up. That's all I remember of it. I'd spent months not thinking of that one moment, that one terrible hour-long minute. Now I wasn't crying, and my stomach felt steady. Bridget made me brave. The next time I woke up, I was in the hospital. I was scared, wondering why I was alone. I hurt everywhere, and I had bruises over almost my whole body. They told me I could visit Mum soon, but I wondered why they didn't say anything about anyone else, about Dad and Savannah. How old was she? She asked gently. 7, I said, getting close to crying. I swallowed and pushed it away. I tossed the torn pieces of toast onto the ground. Birds would eat them, and squirrels, after Bridget and I left. I'm sorry, Bridget said. Her eyes were red, almost crying, but she didn't look away from me. Everyone came, Gran and my other grandparents and all the uncles and aunts from both sides and friends. There were so many people. That whole week after the hospital with the funeral and then after it, I don't remember much of it at all, just little bits. Seeing the 2 coffins together, one big and one small. Uncle David trying to get me to eat lasagna someone from church had brought by, and I wouldn't. Realising I was wearing nice black clothes I'd never seen before, that I didn't remember putting on, and wondering who got them for me. The worst, I wanted to tell Dad something, and I couldn't, would never. I stopped talking. There was only one more part, really, about Mum. Mum and I, see, she'd been driving the car when I think that mattered, but it wasn't her fault, not really. I couldn't finish this part. She's not a bad person. I believe you, Bridget said. There were 2 pieces of toast left. I handed her one and started to eat the other, slowly listening to it crunch between my teeth. Aubrey, I believe you, Bridget said again. It's okay. She stood and held out her hand. I let her pull me up. She hugged me and walked with her arm around my waist. And with her arm around my waist, she walked me back to my grandmother's house. Dear Julie, I remembered something today. I remembered that one pink rose was left in my room after the funeral. Because I didn't know who put it there and didn't see anyone go in and out or out of my room, I wanted to pretend it was from you, even though I know that doesn't really make sense. I think that's how much I miss Savannah. I wanted to think that part of her was still around. Now that I remember it, I wish I'd brought that flower here to Vermont. It's still in my old room, dried somewhere, but I guess it will be there when I get back, and I can find it then. Love, Aubrey. And we'll leave it there for today. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Thank you for liking, subscribing, commenting. It really makes my day when you do. As I say, it was a bit of a heavy one today, so if you do need to skip any parts, feel free to do so. I want you to get as much enjoyment out of this as possible. So if anything upsets you, please do skip if you need. And Ziggy and I will hopefully see you soon. Bye bye, everybody. Cheerio. Can you wave bye bye, Ziggy? Good boy. Cheerio again, everybody.